Hey everybody, here we are with another episode of You Can't Come Over, but You Can Come In. Today's guest is Tenille Townes, who I will tell you is, I'm sure a lot of you, maybe all of you, already know Tenille's music. I feel lucky enough to not only know Tenille's music, but to know her a little bit personally. And she's one of those people that no one is ever disappointed in. I always say, like, I really like everybody. Tenille, I would give this is so true. Neil and I did CMA, well, they CMA Songwriter Series, but they called it Introducing Nashville because we were doing it to countries where CMA Songwriter Series hadn't been, Australia, New Zealand, Japan. And so I got to know Tenille a little bit and just fell in love with her. And I'm so excited that she is the guest today. So
I'm
how
so
you doing?
excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
I think this series is really cool, and I'm like, I get to go hang with Brandy Clark today. This is so awesome.
oh, well, I love that you feel that way. So what's this quarantine been for you so far? So it's been what, 8 weeks?
Yesterday was 60 days.
Whew, okay.
Yeah, and it's long. It depends on the hour, and like, I don't know. It's been weird. I feel like very far from my family and from just what I've been used to doing the last couple of years, and I miss hugs and just being around people. But I'm trying to make the best of it, like writing songs via FaceTime or Zoom, which is not the same as in person, but it's still nice to like be creative and trying to just learn what I'm supposed to learn from this time, without too much of a heavy heart. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in the same boat exactly as you. And I think every day is a little different, and like last week felt really hard for the
Mhm.
whole world. Like it felt like everybody was near the breaking point.
Yeah.
And then the weekend came and things I think eased up a little bit for people. Um, but yeah, I am with you. We're not meant to be isolated. I saw there, I was reading something where someone said that we are skin starved. Even people
Wow.
who are married or with somebody else, we're meant to hug, we're meant to shake hands, we're meant to do all those things. And it's making everybody a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I feel that. And it's kind of like the newness of it or the adrenaline of it is kind of like wearing off. So it's like, oh, like we're still all in this and it's a marathon. And so
Totally. I mean, when it first started, I think unless you were in New York City or someplace else that was really, hit with it right away, it kind of felt like the time between Christmas and New Year,
mhm,
where, everybody's just eating what they want and
yes.
sleeping in and watching TV. And then it became like, okay, well, we're gonna have to figure out how to work in this and how to this might be a while.
Maybe a minute. Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
were
that
you on tour when it happened?
yes, actually. I was in Amsterdam.
Oh
We
my
were Yeah, we had done a couple shows in Germany, and we were meant to be flying the next morning to London for C to C to kind of continue that festival run. And we literally, I had like already fallen asleep, and my manager Crystal called my hotel room and it was like 11:30 or something, and she's like, so there's going to be a president address that's going to determine travel situations, and it's going to happen in 2 hours, and we may be changing our flight. And so the next morning she's amazing and immediately found us a flight out because that was on Thursday and the travel restrictions started Friday. So it felt like, I don't know, some high speed like movie or something. It was crazy. So
So
crazy.
Crystal was over there with you though, right? Oh, that's good. I can attest, Tanil has an amazing manager. When we were in those countries, she was such a help to everyone, not just Tanil. So I'm so glad that she was there. I didn't know you were at C to C. So did you go from Amsterdam back to Nashville?
Yep. We did not get to London. So I can't wait to go back and, make up for lost time. And it sure makes me smile. Like I had never traveled to those kind of places before I don't know, like 2 years ago. And it just feels so cool to think that the world is like, I don't know, smaller than you imagine it when you're like reading about all these places in school and thinking about how big the world is. And it's like, it's amazing. I loved our trip. That was so fun to get to know you and to travel through Australia. And like, you literally saved my life. Like, I fell down the stairs and you caught me.
That's true. For those of you all that not, hardly anybody knows this story, Crystal did see it. Tenille fell down the stairs and I did catch her. So I'm a part of saving a great artist for the world. So, pat on the back for me.
And
Um,
that was the best.
you mentioned Amsterdam. That's the first place I had ever been. I was there before. I was there on a CMA Songwriter Series, another one actually. Um, that's the first place I'd ever been that looked like what I would consider old Europe. You know,
Yes.
didn't because you go to London and I mean have you been to London?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you go there and it feels, I mean, it doesn't feel quite like New York City, but it's like a big, big city.
Yep.
And I also, when I go to those places and it's on one of these things, I don't get out much. So somebody's going to scream at me and say, we have all kinds of old architecture because I get, but the parts I've always been in, other than the beautiful churches I've gotten to play, it feels like, today.
Yeah.
Going to Amsterdam, to me, I felt like I was in Anne Frank's diary there.
Yeah. I love that you feel that way too. I thought something was magical about Amsterdam. And it's funny because things were starting to cancel while we were there. And so we played Amsterdam. We were supposed to go back to Germany and then to London. And the Germany shows got canceled. And so we were in Amsterdam for like 4 days that we were not intending to be. And I could not have picked a more magical place to just, it was kind of eerie, honestly, because it was like you could feel the world starting to like shift and prepare for this thing that I don't know, I hadn't quite wrapped my head around at all. And it was like so quiet. And I'm walking these canal streets in Amsterdam, just like taking in this really still cool moment in such an enchanting place. Like all the shops were, everything was so quaint and quiet, and restaurants were awesome and they were kind of empty. And it just felt like, I don't know, it was like the heart of an old Europe situation that I was very grateful to be stuck there for a couple days.
Well, yeah, it's crazy when all that was going on, I was in New York and I remember right before I went to New York, I remember Old Dominion because I'm friends with some of those guys, canceling going to C2C. And I thought, that feels a little hasty, I mean, I really did think that. Like, but I
That
also
so did all of us. We were like, what are they doing?
clearly they were ahead of the curve. Um, but then I was in New York and New York felt really weird. Like my hotel was, you could see Times Square, and I remember looking down there and counting 21 people and
Wow.
thinking, this is so strange. And I was doing TV, and the people at the TV, like at CBS was the first place we were at, they were talking about it. And I had heard about it before, but it was like a cruise ship thing,
Yep.
that, and so it was nuts how it went from that to where we are, like snap of a finger.
Fast. So that was all like album promo at New York Adventures, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was the last person that got to do the artist lounge at the Today Show, and I feel so lucky, and I felt lucky that you always feel lucky when you do those things, but they felt sad that day.
Wow.
And there was actually a guy on the crew of that third hour that passed away a week later
That's
that
crazy.
got it, that was there that day. So
Oh, wow.
it's very crazy. And so, I mean, we're lucky that our biggest complaint is that we are trying to figure out our writing schedules
No,
online.
it's so true. It's so true. It's such a heavy time. It's like,
So do
uh,
you feel like, have you read any books, or is there any TV shows you've been watching, or anything that lifts you out of the heavy?
yeah. So I have been walking a lot.
Good
I
for
just
you.
like, I keep circling for hours sometimes because it's just like I'm missing the momentum. So I just literally walk and I will listen to different, I don't know, podcasts and records. And I've listened to your record on repeat on my loop. It's so good. I love it so much. It's
Oh,
just
thank you.
such a beautiful piece of music.
I hope
Um,
those are your easiest laps.
yeah. That's awesome. Definitely. But yeah, I've read a couple different books. I'm trying to think. There was one called To Wake the Sleeping Self,
Mhm.
um, Jedediah Jenkins, which I loved. And another one, it was a little light fiction read called The Music Shop. And it was so colorful with just like, it's about this kind of guy that just would not let go of selling records. And
Mhm.
every time he talked about a record, he had the best, like, visual. He knew exactly what record the person needed when they walk in his shop. And it was so fun to kind of disappear into that
Oh,
world for a bit.
that's amazing.
Um, I've been watching West Wing, which I've never seen before, and I love. So that's been fun. What are you watching?
Well, I watched the morning show, that's the best binge TV I've watched in a long time.
Very good.
I started that TV show Hollywood,
Okay.
Netflix. I'm not sure if I mean, I love pretty much everything Ryan Murphy, but I'm not totally invested in this one yet.
Yeah.
Um, I've watched a little bit of that show, Waco on Netflix, which is very good. And have a small memory of that event has been interesting. And then I just read last week that book, The Art of Racing in the Rain, which I might
Mm,
make my book club book. We have a book club on here that meets every other week. And that's been a lot of fun. And that book, I mean, I haven't torn through a book that fast in a long time.
dang, I need to write that down and go read it. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tearjerker. I will warn you. At times, there are a few tears, but it's a great book and an easy read as far as the pace of it. You really, it's a book I didn't read it in a day, but you could probably read it in a day.
That's cool. Okay. The Art of Racing in the Rain. That's what you
Yeah,
said.
I'll send you a link afterwards. So I've gotten us off topic, but I'd love to talk a little bit about your music and where you're at with it. You've got a project coming out, don't you?
I do. Yes. I'm so excited. June 26th, we get to put it
Ooh.
out in the world. Finally, we've had lots of heart to hearts about music and releasing it. And I'm so thrilled to get to, in this climate of music that's happening and that we're making, it's like to have the opportunity to release something that was created top to bottom as a one sort of project is something that I just will not take for granted. I'm so excited. So, yeah.
Oh, see that you have such a good attitude. That's so good.
Today.
And you made this record with Jay Joyce, who I will also work with. One of the things on that, the thing we did was myself, you, Lindsay, Ellen, Devin, Dawson. You, myself, and Devin have all made records with Jay. We had
Yes.
that in common.
Yeah.
And you guys made this record a while ago, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, we did. We made it a while ago, and I love that on that trip we got to share our Jay stories and talk about just disappearing into the church. I mean, what a cool studio. And Jay is just, he's such an interesting and fascinating human. And I love how he creates magic. Like, he just is such a, I don't know, he has such a trustworthy wrestle with music. And it was such an amazing experience getting to make this with him.
So do you have a favorite song on this album?
So I think for me, the favorite moment is a song that I wrote a while ago about my great grandmother and just thinking about her. And she passed away a few years ago now. And it's just like one of those songs that I just kind of sat down and it just kind of found me. But in the studio, it was so cool because we had been sort of recording in these stations and I showed up for the day that we were doing When I Meet My Maker, and Jay had moved the entire setup to like the altar of the church, and it was just me sitting there on guitar. He was playing electrics through some really cool pedals, and then Jackson Hargrove sat on the second acoustic, and the three of us just sat in a circle at the altar, and we just ran it to run it, and we ended up like just using that pass top to bottom as like what ended up staying on the record. And that's one of my favorite moments. That felt like, I don't know, some kind of spiritual and cool thing. So I think that's probably my favorite.
Ooh, would you want to play that?
Sure, yeah. Let's see.
I even love that you've got like a metallic chair that you're sitting on.
Yeah, I my mom found these, and they just showed up at my apartment. I'm like, these are the coolest metallic chairs. So that was fun. Let's see. Sorry, I'm like getting myself organized here.
Hey, you know what? This is the behind the scenes. People tune into this so they can see uh, something other than the show.
That's right.
They're getting the real thing.
Oh, what's happening? Goodness. That's the real thing right there. I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I think in my head I was like, oh, I wonder what I'll end up playing. And then this makes perfect sense. I'm very excited.
I try to just, with this, just have a conversation. Everybody I've had on, I mean, has been a friend, or, like we had Mary Chapin Carpenter on, and I had met her once, but she was so easy to talk to. And I'm finding, I was telling somebody the other day, I'm always afraid, oh, are we talking too much? But I'm finding people enjoy that, and I enjoy that. So I shouldn't underestimate. I shouldn't think that just because I like it, somebody else wouldn't like it.
I think that's amazing and so true. It's like, I love you ask such great questions. You in conversation when we're driving around through Australia, it's like, I don't know, you're such a interesting. I love getting to talk to you is basically what I'm trying to say.
Well, Tenille, I just adore you. So I'm glad that you think I ask interesting questions.
You, I very much adore you as well. Okay, this is When I Meet My Maker. When I meet my maker at the open golden gates, he's gonna welcome me home where eternity awaits. I'm gonna run into his arms. I'm gonna stare into his eyes. The ones that I've been seeking, the ones that never left my side. When I meet my maker, we'll walk on heaven's boulevard. Up above the clouds, in between the stars, and I'll ask him all my questions, and he'll answer with a smile. I'll tell him how I love him, and I will thank him for my life. Ooh. When I meet my maker, oh, I'm gonna know it's the right time, 'cause he'll have a reason, and I will understand why, and he'll tell me that it's alright. I tell him how I miss you. You show me how to watch you over from the front row with the perfect view. Ooh. When I meet my maker, I'm gonna ask him for some wings. He'll
is stunning. And I'll tell you this, everybody watching this now, it's afternoon, evening, but this is in the morning. So how you can sing that well in the morning is a feat.
Well, thank you.
Pretty great. I don't think you played that when we were out. That's a new one to me. That is just gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, so I'd love to hear, I always love to hear different people's perspectives on where they came from. So you're from Canada.
Yep.
How do you feel that makes your perspective different or unique in country music from everyone else? Not that you're the only Canadian. And I've got a lot of Canadians on this feed. I love Canada. I'm from very close to Canada. I don't mean that.
Honorary
I feel like every time I have one of these, I'm mentioning Lori McKenna, like who we love. But like Lori, I feel like Lori being from Boston and even still living there has this perspective that makes her stuff this much different, that makes it this much cooler. So what is it for you?
Wow. Okay, that's you and your great questions. I love this. For me, I guess it's more my community that I think of
Mhm.
in the sort of shaping atmosphere than I guess Canada. I'm a very proud Canadian. I love being able to say that I'm from Canada. I love Tim Hortons. I love all of the things, but I had like the most wonderful community that was like show up for each other, that would, you know, a neighbor would be going through something and there'd be a fundraiser thrown at the hall, and everybody, you know, bake something or bring, you know, some kind of auction item, and it was wonderful. There were always like gatherings, outside barbecues, and just people really kind of supporting each other. And it's a lot of entrepreneurs in the town that I'm from. Is a lot of locally owned businesses kind of operate, and it's like all of these people work so hard, and they make decisions as to like their generosity that kind of stays within the community. So we have this fundraiser that we do every year for the youth shelter called Big Hearts for Big Kids, and it's like I've literally watched my hometown raise over $1 million in the last 10 years, and
Wow.
it's astounding to me to see that, and also just to know that anything is kind of possible. I know that sounds weird to say, but that's the thing that I grew up believing because I watched it. So I think that very much has imprinted itself in in the way that I sort of, I guess, dream or go for things. It's like I watched crazy things be possible, so why not, you know?
Boy, you can really feel that on you. That has definitely been imprinted. Um, I, so about how many people were in your hometown?
So it's around 50,000
Oh,
in the city,
wow. Okay.
but in my, like, I grew up about 15 minutes outside of town, and so the kids, I graduated with I think 98 kids or something, and it's
Okay.
like we all really knew each other well, and we were all the kids that were from the outskirts of town. So
So when you're growing up out there in the outskirts of town, I love that. I haven't heard that in a long time. I think Sawyer Brown had a song or had an album called The Outskirts of Town, I think.
that's
Um,
amazing.
I remember loving it. I can't, yeah, I think it was an album. Um, what do you remember? Like, what's a song? I always love to ask anybody on here, what's a song that made you want to write songs, or a song like as a kid when you were growing up that you thought that just hooked you and, made you want to do this?
Wow. Okay.
Maybe a couple. I mean, like
Yeah.
Mary Tooth, she couldn't even bring it down to a couple. She just had to say a couple artists, which I thought was
That's amazing. Okay, that makes me feel like I have a little more permission to not have it be this.
oh, yeah.
It really depended on who was driving, because we lived out of town and we were constantly running into town, and I just would sit in the back seat and listen to music, and it was a lot of times our little country radio station, and it was a lot of times Shania Twain records, and it was, especially with my mom, and my dad was like more, I don't know, like Fleetwood Mac and U2. We listened to Joshua Tree over and over, and it was like all of those kind of collection of songs. With my grandparents, it was like Coat of Many Colors that I think really kind of set the bar, and they love and worship Dolly Parton. And so it's kind of an interesting mix of music. But I think song-wise, I actually think that the first place I heard this song would have been on the Dixie Chicks record, but I later discovered Patty Griffin and just like was like, oh, this makes me want to write songs, like the craft and the vulnerability. I think Let 'Em Fly would probably be my pick of that, but it's like some of those songs that I later dived into Patty's records and just obsessed over all of them, but to me it's like it's sometimes I don't even really know what the song is meaning or telling me, but I feel it, and it's like that kind of transportation that fuels me to want to write songs.
Wow. Funny story, and then I'm going to ask you to play that song if you feel comfortable. But
Okay, sure.
so this cracks me up. So my manager said to me, "Hey, you've been asked to sing on a Patty Griffin tribute record," and I said, "Okay, that'd be awesome." And
Wow.
so she's like, "You need to pick 3 choices." So I started going through the songs, and it was and I labored over it, like you would.
Yeah,
And there
of
were
course.
certain things like that song. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna touch that. I mean, no. And Patty Griffin has that voice, much like you, that's like a real like. There's some real like acrobatics, and I don't mean that bad because there's a lot of emotion in the acrobatics. And I'm kind of more of a singer with a smaller S on a lot of days. And so I was like, I gotta be careful what I pick. So after all of this laboring over it and like, okay, let me sleep on it, see if I still feel this way. She says to me, please don't be mad at me, but it's not a Patty Griffin tribute record. It's a Nancy Griffith tribute record. Who I also love. And whose songs
That is the most amazing
yes.
story.
Oh yeah. And those are the whose songs fall in an easier, more natural spot of my range. So it was easier because I was like, man, I love Patty Griffin. I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to do one of these and do it justice. And so, anyways, I think she thought I was gonna be really mad, and I wasn't. It was real funny. And it was during this pandemic. I mean, it was like
Hilarious.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. You had me so excited about hearing you do a Patty Griffin song and also about this whole record.
Yeah.
I'm also excited for Nancy's, but this is just amazing.
Yeah. Well, that tribute record, I mean, maybe I just put it into the universe. Maybe that will happen. But yeah. So anyway, so after all this, what am I going to do? And I almost reached out to Jay and said, because Jay Joyce worked with
Yes.
and said, what do you think I would do that not everybody's done? Like, what would I do well? And no, I didn't need to do that.
That's so good. What a great story. But what a fun thing to dive through Patty's catalog and
yes,
be like, okay, which of these? There's so many. I love what's the one? Darling, I wish you will on your way to the wishing well. That one gets me too. So many.
Would you mind explaining that guitar a little bit to everybody watching?
Sure. So this is my little time capsule guitar for the record. I found this guitar at a little vintage shop in Austin at South by Southwest, and I had been looking for one to paint because I wanted to just have a guitar that would kind of represent this era and season of music. And my friend Louis Lavoie from back home in Alberta is this incredible muralist, and I wanted him to be the one to do it. So he came to Nashville. I got to show him around Nashville and like sit next to him and tell him where I wanted all the symbols and how I wanted it connected, and he did such a beautiful job. But yeah, every song has like a little pocket on here, and the back is all done too. So Yeah, hopefully the next collection of music I'll be able to paint up another guitar. That's kind of the dream, but that's what's going on here.
I see many of those in the Hall of Fame. You know, years from now, there'll be a guitar for every album.
That is very kind of you to say. I actually have to say the idea. We were in the studio. I was working with Jay, and my dad came to visit for the weekend, and I got to bring him to the studio, which was really cool. And he like, I'll never forget watching him sit in the corner. He was so scared to even come in because he just is like, I'll just be over here. Don't worry about me. And he sat on the couch, and the dogs just came and loved on him and like sat next to him, and he put the headphones on and he's like listening, and it was such a cool moment. But on that trip, he we went to the Hall of Fame, and we were walking around just like every time I walk in there, I feel so inspired, and like I see different things that I never saw before. And we were looking at all these guitars that have like a story to tell, and I was like, I want to paint a guitar. So it's kind of a crazy. This is kind of where it all came from. But yeah, thank you for saying that.
Mhm.
Um, I guess am I to play the Patty Griffin song of choice? Is that
Yes, it's up to you.
okay? I will go for a piece of this one. Let's see. Ain't no talking to this man. Ain't no pretty other side. Ain't no way to understand the stupid words of pride. It would take an acrobat. I already tried all that, so I'm gonna let him fly. Things can move at such a pace. Secondhand waves goodbye. Oh, you know the light has left his face, but you can't recall where or why. And there was really nothing to it. I just went and cut right through it and said, I'm gonna let him fly. There's no mercy in life when no rest at all in freedom. And the choices we are given ain't no choice at all. Proof is in the fire you touch before it moves away. We must always know how long to stay, when to go. Ain't no talking to this man. He's been trying to tell me so. Oh, it took a while to understand beauty and letting go. It would take an acrobat. I already tried all that, so I'm gonna let him fly. I'm gonna let him fly. Oh, I'm gonna let him fly.
Oh, that's so good.
Ah, thanks.
I
She's
do remember, I think you played that one when we were out there because I feel like one night we did a round of songs that made me want to write songs. So, what are you looking forward to? Your album comes out June 26th.
yes.
What is it? Jersey on the Wall?
Jersey on the Wall's out there. Yep.
Okay. So y'all get what you can of Tenille's. Get it now. If you don't have it, I'm guessing a lot of people on here probably already do. So besides your album coming out, what are you looking forward to on the horizon?
I
And that's a big thing. If that's all you're looking forward to, that'd be okay.
I'm looking forward to being all together again, whenever that is, and looking forward to hugging people and playing shows and all of those wonderful things. It will be like I think I'm just gonna cry the entire first show this back. Like I'm just gonna feel so thankful, you know? So I'm looking forward to that.
Do you have shows on the books for 2020, or has it all been moved to?
You know, we do have shows through I think the later part of summer and fall,
Mhm.
kind of at this point, and I honestly don't think anyone really knows
Yeah,
what one.
I'm in that same boat. Like they're on the books, and we're all really hopeful that
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
me
Um,
too.
it's good to have something out there though to see. Like, okay, you know, I'll be honest. Like this year started. I started out in Europe, and then I went out on the road with Tanya Tucker for a month, which was really fun. Um,
And so fun. You must have so many stories.
oh, I do. I do. It was just a short time. Um, it was great. It was awesome. So, you know, out with Tanya, getting ready to put an album out, and I felt really tired. Like I felt behind the eight ball. Like some of the travel early on was hard, and just because of things out of everybody's control, like weather, and you know how that can be. I mean, touring in the winter is tough. My first tour I ever did was in the winter, so I just thought that's how you did it. Like,
Right.
you know, but it's hard because you're dealing with. I mean, the Tanya tour, we were in like North Dakota, Minnesota,
Oh,
you know, those sorts of places. Um,
yeah.
and honestly, I mean, it was fun because I love being out with someone like her who's a legend, but I was tired. And I think for me, I'm not going to be tired anymore.
Yeah.
Like, because I realized like I was kind of bitching and complaining a little bit out there, which you know I can do sometimes from going to Australia with me. But it wasn't quite the same level. Teal and I have stayed in some motels that, you know,
So
I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, I'll just be honest that we stayed in some places. But
an adventure.
yeah, we've had an adventure. But I think when this whole thing stopped, I realized just how much I love being on the road, even when the travel is awful and you get no sleep, because that interaction that we get every night with people who love music, who spend all their money to come to shows. Um, just to take a shot of tequila with Tanya Tucker. Some of these on this feed, I've seen pictures of them doing it. It's pretty amazing, and I definitely can't wait to be back out there because I realize, like, man, I need to adjust my attitude when it is kind of harder. And it's never hard on stage, but just
No,
like I
you're
said,
so right.
the travel, because we're so lucky we get to do that, and being like cooped up like we are, and this is the only way, which thank God we have this way to
Yeah.
interact with fans of music. It makes me realize just how lucky. And I think about, I dream of festivals now. Like,
Isn't that crazy? It's true. It's just like it's so easy. You just get in the rhythm of it and stuff goes by and it's like, oh no, like this is all it's all so wonderful. Like I literally have a group text with my band and it's like I will take any kind of van. Like we have a few different kinds of vans that we'll rent for different like
oh,
occasions. If it's a longer one, we get the one with a couple bunks in the back of the Sprinter, which is awesome.
mm-hmm.
Or we get the transit van and we're like, oh dang it, we're on the run with the transit van. And it's like I will take a transit van forever. Like I just will never complain about the van again.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh
true.
yeah, the van. You know, I think that's what happened to me on the Tanya deal is that I'm used to a bus. And on that tour, the venues, there wasn't enough parking for buses. So it made no sense. So we vanned it and flew everywhere. I mean, when you're in a van, you're getting beat to shit for a
Yes,
couple
you really
hours.
are.
But I think about that, and I did that as a trio, and I think about myself and Jeff, who was out with me, and Caitlin, and then Michelle, who was tour managing us and driving the van. Her and Jeff would drive the van, and I think, oh, those were good times. Like,
Right? Great times.
yeah.
Times. And it's because it's like, yeah, there's nothing like you're so right. There's nothing like the exchange of a collective music experience like that. And it's I don't know, it's such a wonderful thing that people come and I'm really looking forward to the days when we can all do that again.
Yes. Well, I have kept you a long time.
This has been wonderful. What a great start to the day. I just love hanging with you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for doing this. And I'd love it if you'd send us out on a song if you want.
Oh, sure. Well, sure. Okay, let's see.
Your choice, dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. What shall I do? I'll maybe do the first single that we got to put out. And this was kind of the song that started the momentum of this record, and the Lemonade Stand is the title of it, and it comes from a lyric in this song. So thanks for having me today. You're so awesome. I wish I could hug you.
Virtual hug.
Yeah.
What's a little bit, so if you don't mind, like you wrote this with Barry Dean and Luke Laird, correct? Is there any little story behind this?
I would love to. I'm like, am I talking too much?
No, you're not. Trust me. I mean, I'm such a talker, so anybody at this point that's hung in there with me understands that. And then I've had guests that really like to talk, so and they've been great.
Okay, good. Well, then I would love to tell more of the story. So I was driving around with my mom. We were furniture shopping to set up this little apartment, and we took this exit and saw this young girl standing holding on to a cardboard sign. And it was one of those kind of conversations in the car that just like I can replay it over and over in my brain, and it's like I'm sitting right there next to her, because we were just like what's her name, and who's her mom, and you know, who does she belong to, and what happened. And like we saw the vehicle in front of us give this Gatorade to her out of like the cooler of his construction truck, and it was such a awesome exchange to watch at this red light. And then the light turns green, and it just becomes a moment that happened, and we carry on. And it's like there's something about it that just really stuck with me. And so I had been looking forward to the I'd never written with Luke or Barry before, and you know, just admire them both so much. And it was such a cool day to get to show up at Creative Nation and go upstairs to Luke's studio, and we're sitting there, and Luke had this loop pulled up that was in the same key and pretty much the same tempo as like something I had been working on, a couple of lines, you know, wrestling with this thought. And I was like, that's weird and cool. And then Barry Dean comes up the stairs with this, with his briefcase, and he pulls out this folder of newspaper articles that he said sometimes he draws on for inspiration, and telling him about, which I just think is so cool. And I was telling him about this girl that I saw, and he pulls out this article that talks about street names and how they can correspond sometimes with different like low income areas. And it talked about like homeless people on something like 18th Street, which is a line that I had been wrestling with. And I was like, this is freaking me out. This is so cool. So we all just kind of looked at each other, and I was very grateful to get to write with them that day. And Barry's he's just going on these lyrics, and he said something about counting change at the lemonade stand. I'm like, that is the coolest thing. So but yeah, anyways, that was the day that we were
very cool. Very cool.
Thank you for asking. I drive home the same way, 2 left turns off the interstate, and she's always standing at the stoplight on 18th Street. She could be Sarah, she could be an Emily, and Olivia, maybe Cassidy, with a shaky hand on a cardboard sign. She's looking at me. Bet she was somebody's best friend, laughing all back when she was somebody's sister, counting change at the lemonade stand. Probably somebody's high school first kiss, dancing in a gym with the kids all talk about Sunday plans. Now this light will turn green, and I hand her a couple dollars. And I wonder if she got lost or they forgot her. She's somebody's daughter, somebody's daughter, somebody. starter. Where did she give up wondering where the cars all go? And can she even tell that I don't know what to say? So I just nod my head and wait. Well, no one's gonna ask if she wants to be or why we're both stuck here at the mercy of geography and whether it shines or rains. Yeah. Bet she was somebody's best friend, laughing all back when she was somebody's sister. Count change at the lemonade stand. Probably somebody's high school first kiss. Or dancing in a gym where the kids all talk about someday plans. Now this light will turn green and I hand a couple dollars. And I wonder how she fell and no one caught her. Somebody's daughter, somebody's daughter, somebody's daughter, somebody's daughter. Oh, I don't know the reasons why. I'm the one who's driving by and she's the one on the corner of 18th Street. Bet she was somebody's best friend, oh, laughing back when she was somebody's sister, just counting change at the lemonade stand. Probably somebody's high school first kiss, or dancing in a gym where the kids all talk about someday, someday. Now this light will turn green and I hand a couple dollars. Somebody's daughter. Yeah.
Tenille Townes, everybody go out, pre-order her album right now.
Thank you. Brandy, I just have to say one more thing. It is just really cool and surreal to get to do this today. Also, just because, and I swear I'm not just saying this, but like, you set the bar to me for the art of songwriting, and I have loved your music and admire your records, and the world is better for it, and you inspire me, so thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you. You do the same for me, Tenille. I'll tell everybody that's listening, this is the truth. There's nobody, like, I've always felt really confident myself in a guitar and a song. I'm not always the most confident in a band situation. Like, it has to be the right, and I'm not a run around the stage kind of performer. But you put me in a guitar neck, I will sit next to James Taylor. The one time, and I've been in rounds. I remember I was in this round in Colorado. It was me, Chris Stapleton, Leanne Womack, Brett James. Never been ever. When I did the CMA Songwriting Series with Tenille, I remember thinking, oh, so I have to follow Tenille. Like,
whatever.
I'm not kidding. It's the one time in a round that I have felt like, okay, that, I mean, not that I haven't followed great people, because I've been really fortunate to sit with a lot of great people, but you've got a lot in you. And so I mean, if I were a little bit more hormonal, that would have made me cry. Thank God.
I'm feeling it. So
it's not that kind of day for me, but that means a lot to me. And I mean that when I say, I remember every night thinking, and you know, of course, Devin and Lindsay made sure that they weren't going to follow you. So it was always me. But you're just spectacular, and you're somebody, your beauty of yourself and your music, there's no way people can miss it, because it really is your heart all the way around. So anyways, now I'm going to get teary, but
Thank you so much for
Oh,
saying that.
thank you. Thanks for being on here. And everybody, like I said, go get her album, pre-order it. That you can get other things if you don't have them yet. You should do that. And I'll see you when the quarantine's up.
I can't wait. Yes. Thank you for having me. Thanks for hanging, everybody, and sending you love, Brandy.
All right.